Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Adam Ship, my money share, as we head into a Josh Engelman and Emac weekend over here on Osmo. You're going to get us on all the main shows because one, Jake Hari is out at a wedding, and Adam gets the weekend off, and Spags gets the weekend off. So here we are. It's going to be a good one. I want to point out it is going to be an 11 a.m. show on Saturday. We will start at 11, not the normal 11:15 time, and we will be breaking down all of the games. Adam and I are going to focus on the late slate, which is actually the main slate, this evening as we get you ready for Saturday MLB action. But let's catch up with Adam. Adam, you had a good time there for a little while on Thursday night. Tell your story, and then I've got a fun recap after you tell your story.
Yeah, it was a good slate in regulation, I guess, on the 3-game night slate. After 9 innings of the Orioles game, I was in first and tied for second with Jake in the $11 $20K to first on DraftKings. So I was up $25K after 9 innings. I was up about $20K after 13 innings, fell asleep, woke up in the 16th in time to see the Stevie Wilkerson save, and also to see that I'd gone from up 20,000 to down 1,000. So really was not a fun night.
All right. Well, I'm in my regular hell at work. This is our busy time. We're doing salary planning. Most of you know it as the merit cycle. So when you guys get your raises and performance evaluations, etc., I'm one of the guys behind the scenes doing all that. My new company, 25,000 people, way bigger than any company I've been at. But this is our crucial time because we are on an off cycle. You're matching up with what the government cycle is. So the fun part is this is my hell. So last night I went to bed, losing about 50%. I woke up at about 4:10 and I thought, let's just look at the phone here. I'm not getting out of bed and look at the phone. And I'm like, wait, why are all these games? Why hasn't my winnings? And I'm breaking even. What happened to what's going on? And I thought, oh, there must have been a long game and it would have been suspended. And then the dollar started changing. So I went into our chat and the regulars were all there. Dave and Doc and the other guys were there, and I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, the Angels Baltimore game is still going. And then VR hit a home run, and I won the $2,000 quarter late night contest for $200. I won $150 overall. It was a good time. So then I promptly went back to bed until 6 when I really had to get up, Adam. So that was the other side of the coin, shall we say, with what you and Jake had to deal with.
I'm super happy for you, Emac.
Yes, because, my 200 against your many thousands in play. Yeah, not even close. But sometimes you got to see how the other half lives. In any event, let's get on to the games here. We will focus on pitching. Of course, we are sponsored by Yahoo Fantasy. That is our premier sponsor. If you've not yet signed up for Yahoo, definitely go to any of the Spotlight Hitter articles. Those are free articles that appear on the main page, and if they're off the main page, because we put out so darn much content here at Osmo.com, up in the upper left, you can pick on the baseball header, click on articles, and you'll see the free Spotlight Hitters and Stacks, Spotlight Pitchers, the free cheat sheets that we put out, and then when Chris Randone is doing the Roses of the Day, that will appear there as well. And we are doing one free piece of Osmo content each day for the rest of the baseball season. Today it was the stacking tool, which is, I think, our best tool that we have. One day it's projections. One day it's the deep dive, which Laffy and Adam take turns writing. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is Laffy. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is Adam. We give them the day off on Sunday because, hey, that content would be good for about 45 minutes for an article that takes 5 hours to write. So we're not doing that there. But if you have not yet signed up, go on to those articles. Third paragraph in the Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article will get you the instructions and link to get yourself $30 free with your initial DFS deposit on Yahoo in Yahoo Sports Rewards points, which are available for immediate use. And by the way, they are running the no management fee contest for Saturday. It's 1,500 people, 10 entry max, $3 per entry. So if you sign up, you can max it out with 10, and it's your best 10 against everybody else's best 10. That's how I like it. All right, Adam, back to you here. Let's start off with our first 7 o'clock game. It's going to be Atlanta and Philadelphia. We have Max Fried coming in at 7,800 on DK pricing. We'll feather in some of the other pricing as we go through, but Zach Eflin is on the other side at 8,100. Does not seem all that exciting. What do you want to do here with either of these pitchers? We are looking at 85 degrees with 45% humidity in Philadelphia.
Not a real appealing spot for Zach Eflin. Just not a really high strikeout guy. Has a tough matchup against Atlanta. A really good offense that is difficult to strike out. Dansby Swanson, questionable. He missed yesterday's game. Remains to be seen if he's back in the lineup. But if he's out, you'll get a more left-handed heavy lineup, which is bad for Eflin as well. I think that it's just a really unappealing spot. On the other side with Fried, a little bit more interest. He's just a pretty decent pitcher, not a ton of strikeouts, only about a 22.9% strikeout percentage this season, but a 3.45 xFIP, a reasonable 7% walk percentage. Just a pretty good pitcher. Middle of the road matchup against the Phillies, a lot of right-handed bats, not a ton of strikeouts. So I don't love the spot, but if I had the roster one pitcher in this game, I would lean toward Fried.
And that's the way I would go as well. Philly's just been struggling a little bit. Long season, they're missing a couple key players. They still have Bruce is out with the strained oblique. It might be a week or two before he's back at the earliest. So just kind of check it out. Keep an eye on things. That, of course, means that Maikel Franco and Roman Quinn will be in the lineup more often than not. But those guys tend to be at the bottom of the order, and they both do have power in the appropriate situations. Franco would be the only one I would consider against Max Fried. Moving along to our next game, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates going against the New York Metropolitans. Trevor Williams taking the mound for the Pirates, 7,400 on DK. Steven Matz is nicely priced at him at 6,900.
Nice.
What do we want to do with Steven Matz? Which imposter comes out? Because, damn, between him and Vargas, I am not getting either one right.
Just a pretty brutal matchup for Matz. The price tag is fine. He's not a bad pitcher. He's not a great pitcher, just kind of a middle of the road guy. But the Pirates, not an easy team to strike out. Their active roster does have a higher strikeout percentage against lefties than righties at 22% with a 77 WRC plus. But the thing to keep in mind there is that that's factoring in guys like Corey Dickerson and Colin Moran and a lot of left-handed bats that just aren't going to be in the lineup here. The lineup is nothing but right-handed hitters. Still some pretty good ones in there with Marte and Bell. Really difficult strikeouts with guys like Melky Cabrera. So it's still not a super appealing matchup, even though if you look at the active roster, it looks like it would be.
Yeah, and a couple guys that might go under the radar. Jose Osuna should be in the lineup. He is, of course, righty going against the lefty. He is 3,900 on DK, does have first base and third base eligibility. And then Young Ho Gung is back from his injury. He has shortstop and third base eligibility. But the best part, he is 3,300. So that could be a nice one-off filling in at a couple different positions. We hate to give up the hot corner with someone like that, but hey, it's a 10-game tournament slate, so we have to make some choices. Going against Trevor Williams here, how are you feeling about Robbie Cano, who had a triple home run? Some like to call that the triple dong. A couple nights later, his former teammate, Nelson Cruz, also had a triple dong. It feels like, have you ever seen the movie Big Trouble in Little China?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's a good one with Kurt Russell. Anyway, it feels like these guys are doing the nod to each other from across the room saying, yep, I'm on my new regimen. And I think Nelson Cruz said, hey, so am I. Thoughts on that one? And do you like Robbie Cano now that he's priced up at a robust 3,700, down 2 ticks from where he was on Friday night? But gosh, batting cleanup against Trevor Williams. And if he's working out again, that's not a bad play, Adam.
No, it's still a reasonable price tag. You're not super excited about it, especially in a matchup against Williams that is pretty mediocre. Williams doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, but not a bad pitcher either. Pretty decent at limiting damage. Against lefties this year, 198 expected ISO, 14.7% strikeout percentage. So he has been much worse against lefties, and that does make it a pretty scary matchup. You have Cano, you have Conforto, you have Dom Smith and Jeff McNeil, probably all hitting in the top 6. So pretty scary spot for Williams, and I think that Cano is very affordable, as is Michael Conforto.
Yeah, Williams is kind of one of those third-tier pitchers that I liken to, say, a Mike Leake. There's a few others out there. They absorb punishment, as I like to say, Tanner Roark, etc. They just don't get blown up, Wade Miley, but they don't come out with a clean outing. You're going to get more often than not a quality start, and it's going to infuriate you. you'll miss the times they blow up, but you're not also going to be there on the times that they actually put it all together and go, 6 relatively clean innings with 1 or 2 runs. That's how I kind of feel about Trevor Williams in this matchup, even though I do think that we can look to some of the lefties, as you mentioned, from the Mets. Continuing along here, we've got a lot of 7-10 games. Chicago Cubs, Milwaukee Brewers. We have Chase Anderson. He falls into that absorbing punishment role. He is at 7,900 on DraftKings. You have John Lester on the other side, 9,000, but he has put together, I think it's more than smoke and mirrors at this point, Adam. He's going against a relatively difficult lineup, but 2 of the best hitters in Mike Moustakas and Christian Yelich go from the left side of the plate. Now, they can hold their own, but you're looking at Lorenzo Cain, Ryan Braun, Jesus Aguilar, Keston Hiura, if you're going to pay his premium price tag on 2 of the 3 sites. What do you want to do here with John Lester for starters?
I don't really want to roster him. He's $9,000 on DraftKings. That's a little more than I want to pay for a pitcher that has only struck out 22.6% of hitters. He has been better this year than last year. His numbers are much more in line with the few years prior to last year than last year, where it looked like he might be on his way out of baseball. So it's certainly not a bad pitcher, but I don't really love rostering him here against a Milwaukee team that does have a lot of right-handed power.
All right, I did want to call it. Max Fried is coming off of the DL or the IL, the injured list. That was with a blister on his finger. So let me check here. Last time he pitched was the 15th of July. So he's had 2 weeks to get healthy, or 12 days. So close enough. I feel that he's going to be okay. But I did want to point that out because sometimes that can be a recurring injury, and we're never going to really know for sure what's going to happen. And all it takes is one pitch sort of slipping in the humidity and tearing off whatever callus or blister covering has developed. So just keep that one in mind. Would you consider Chase Anderson at 7,900 against the Cubbies? This one is again in Milwaukee. Probably they will have the roof open. It's going to be in the mid 70s to low or mid to upper 70s on Saturday. This again is going to be, what is that? Doing the math, like a 6:10 start. How do you feel about Chase Anderson? I wish he was 6,900. Then he would be nice.
Yeah, I wish he was a little bit cheaper. It's tough to get here. The Cubs obviously are a really good offense. Anderson has, for his career, been better against lefties than righties. This season, the strikeout stuff's been pretty decent. 22.4% against lefties, 23.7 against righties, but still a .086 ISO to expected ISO to lefties, 208 expected ISO to righties. So I think that guys like Javier Baez, Chris Bryant, Wilson Contreras are all really appealing options. And then obviously you can round that out with Schwarber and Rizzo. But the right-handed power here is what makes it a really scary spot for Anderson.
All right, let me get our next game queued up here. It is the Colorado Rockies at Cincinnati Reds. They were the 6:40 game, so they were not on the main slate. Though the Rockies are in Cincinnati, keep an eye on that one. Anthony Desclafani, 9,200. That is a tough ask on DraftKings. I just wanted to see what he is been doing recently. I know he had a couple decent starts there. Sorry, now I have the hiccups. Awesome. Last one was against St. Louis. Very righty-heavy lineup, which plays right into Desclafani's strength. He did have 11 strikeouts, won 101 pitches. That was the highest pitch count that he has had since, well, pretty much the entire season. So 9,200, I don't think I can get there, but we'll have to see what Rockies lineup comes out, because Blackmon, Dahl, and Murphy make this a difficult one. If we only get 2 of the 3, we start to think a little bit about Desclafani. I would say more on Yahoo, where he is 41. He is kind of priced in there with Martine Perez at 43, Lester at 40, Fried at 36, Chase Anderson at 36, and Ponce de Leon, who we will talk about soon enough, at 32. So I think he is more of a Yahoo play, if anything, but I would like to only see 2 of those 3 righties, or pardon me, 2 of those 3 lefties, and I really don't care about Ryan McMahon, even though he's had a couple good games recently. Thoughts on Disco Stew?
Yeah, a lot will depend on the lineup, like you said. If we get a lineup that we normally get, I'm not really that interested, because he is priced up. Even 41 on Yahoo is pretty expensive, and it's not, even though it's not cores, it is a park that's good for hitters. And he's just been so bad against lefties. You know, a 342 expected WOBA, 225 expected ISO, and you're probably going to get Blackmon, Dahl, Murphy, and possibly Ryan McMahon. The righty, it's not like the righties are bad with Story and Arenado either. So if he were like 7,500 or 8K, and Colorado sat one of their lefties for some reason, I'd have some interest. But over 9K on DraftKings and even 41 on Yahoo is pretty expensive. I just don't really see getting there.
Let's flip the script for a moment. Looking at those lefties, let's say all four of them are in there. Now, granted, they're going to be dispersed throughout the lineup. However, it's going to be in the upper 80s at game time with the 50% humidity and 7 to 9 mile an hour wind out there to left, which, wait for it, favors lefties from the plate. Would you consider a semi-contrarian stack here from the Rockies, considering their guys are going to be probably every other with the lefties in their lineup?
Yeah, no question. Like I said, Desclafani's really struggled with lefties, and Blackmon and Dahl in particular are good hitters. They're not as good as their numbers in cores, but they're still above average hitters facing a below average pitcher against left-handed pitching in a park that is favorable for hitters. So I do think Colorado would be an interesting, at least mini stack, if not full stack.
Yeah, and actually that's a good point. If you could get two of them, however they are dispersed throughout the lineup. But if you got a Blackmon and Dahl, or if you got Dahl and Murphy, or even Murphy and McMahon, that would be a way to get to it there, just for a little bit of a contrarian differentiation, which will help us take some of the heavier pitchers, and we're going to get to them shortly. Next game on tap is in Chicago. It's going to be 80 degrees, 60% humidity with a 12 mile an hour cross breeze, 10 to 12 miles an hour going from first base to third base. We have Martine Perez at 8,800, and we have Vaughn Nova coming off one of his best outings in, forever against the Marlins, but now he's got the Twins, who are definitely loaded for bear. Yikes. 4,900, we have to consider that just for a moment. Let's talk about Vaughn Nova, Adam.
I'm done talking about Vaughn Nova.
There we go. Let's talk about Martine Perez, 8,800. We already mentioned that he is the third most expensive pitcher at 43 on Yahoo. Of course, Cole, who we will talk about, is at 62. Clevenger, we'll get to him. He's at 52. And then Perez at 43. So significantly discounted from both of those. But it's a tough ask once again. He has been reasonably good, but if we're looking at a likely performance of about maybe 17 to 19 Yahoo points, I don't know that that's going to get us there at 43. How do you feel about Martine Perez?
He's priced really well, not as in really well to roster, but makes it a really difficult decision because Chicago's active roster has a 101 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. So they've been more productive against lefties, but they still have a 24.7% strikeout percentage. There's no Eloy Jimenez, which takes one of the really good, powerful right-handed bats out of the lineup. Perez hasn't been a high strikeout guy this year, but he has done a good job of limiting production. He's held righties to a 295 expected WOBA and a 138 expected ISO. But the problem is exactly what you said. You said 43 on Yahoo.
Yeah, 43.
And 8,800 on DraftKings. You need some strikeouts there to also give you, 6+ innings to really be happy that you rostered him. I think that there's a really good chance that he turns in a good outing, but that it's not really that useful for DFS. He's an example of another guy that if he were just priced $1,000 cheaper, I'd be really interested. But I think he's priced correctly, if not a little too expensive.
Now, here's the rough one. So there's three things working in his favor. You mentioned the first one, that the White Sox, not the best, and they're missing a couple of key hitters, particularly Anderson against lefties, and Jimenez as well. He has given up 4 home runs in his last 10 innings. That's 2 starts against both New York teams at home. Excuse me. The other good things in his favor, he has not yet faced the White Sox. Now, we know he's changed his pitching mix somewhat, though he has fallen back into his old patterns more recently, but the White Sox have not seen him yet this year. That's kind of in his favor. And then the other one is, wait for it, it's the White Sox. Now, they do have a 4.6 implied run total. Perez, if this was like the 8 o'clock slate or something that was not on the main slate, we would consider him, but he could be a differentiation option. That's about my only words of caution there. If you're going against Innova, God, did I really say that? Innova, hey, great hospital system here in Northern Virginia. Vaughn Nova, the pitcher, what do you want to do here with the Twins? I mean, is there anyone you don't like? They have Buxton back. We'll have to see if Mitch Garver's in the lineup or not. If he's not, then you have Jason Castro, who is very solid, does have some pop, but he's not at 36, 37, 3,800 on DK. He's 4,200. We'll be batting 7th or 8th. But have to throw his name out there, but you've got Sano, Rosario, Polanco, Kepler, Cruz. Those guys are all averaging, by the way, averaging $5,200 on DraftKings. That's going to be one of the more expensive stacks. Would you consider going a full stack against Vaughn Nova? I almost said a Nova again. Good God.
Yeah, I would full stack, mini stack, one off. Doesn't really matter. Nova's just not a high strikeout pitcher. He's facing a Twins team that is difficult to strike out and has the highest ISO in baseball against right-handed pitching. Nova, for his career, has been better against righties than lefties. This year, he's actually given up a little bit less production to lefties, but he's still struggled with both sides. 341 expected WOBA, 176 expected ISO to lefties, 374 and 185 respectively to righties. Very low strikeout percentages against both sides. Favorable hitter spark here for Minnesota. Should be in the low 80s in Chicago. So I like everyone on the Twins.
All right, now we are at our first real pitcher here. We have Houston in St. Louis taking on the Cardinals. That's a bonus for Houston because he's going to get a lot of righties, one of the best strikeout pitchers in the game. I really am not worried about Tommy Edelman, who is a switch hitter. He's still cheap on Yahoo, reasonably cheap on DK at 3,700. Dexter Fowler probably will be batting second or third. He is not good against righties when he's coming from the left side of the plate, so I'm not worried about him. And then we have a semi-resurgent Paul Goldschmidt. You have Paul, not double the young, triple the young. And then Colton Wong. Nobody here really scaring me, but the Gerrit Cole, $12,000 on DK. And then 62 on Yahoo. That is, well, I don't know how much room is left for profit yield if we're going to talk financial speak, Adam. What do you want to do here with Gerrit Cole?
I still really like Gerrit Cole here. And the reason is what we've kind of hit on through a lot of the games with pitch. We haven't really liked pitching so far, and it's because a lot of pitchers are overpriced. It would be one thing if this entire mid-range were $1,000 cheaper and there was a lot of, profit margin on those guys, but there isn't. And if I'm going to pay a premium on pretty much any pitcher on the slate, I would like to do it with the best strikeout starter in baseball. Cole leads all qualified starters with a 37.9% strikeout percentage. He has the best xFIP at 2.57. He's been the best or one of the top three pitchers in baseball all season long, really, regardless of what you look at. So I think he's worth it. Whereas these other guys, you're really hoping a lot of things break your way. I also think that there are a couple of cheap SP2s that you can go to, which we'll get to in a couple of games. So it's not really that difficult to roster Cole on the two pitcher sites. So he's still my number one, even at that price point.
All right, let's pause for a moment here and look at FanDuel. So Cole is 12,000. Clevenger, who we'll get to shortly, is at 10,700. Then you've got a bunch of guys we're not going to roster on FanDuel. Lester at 86, Desclafani at 8, Max Fried at 75, Chase Anderson 71, Zach Heflin 7, Martine Perez nicely priced at 69. We might consider him. Then Homer Bailey at 68, Sean Anderson at 66, Ponce de Leon, we'll talk about him in just a second here, 65. Yikes, it drops off dramatically, and I don't think I want anybody outside of Cole or Clevenger if I am playing on FanDuel. That is going to be the popular route to go. So now we've got to accept a certain amount of risk here. But how do you feel about Gerrit Cole, 12,000, knowing that the only other guy we might want is Clevenger for 13% less?
Sorry, I didn't hear your question. The concert outside my apartment started back up.
All right, there we go. Hopefully some of the groupies are shouting, Adam, we saw you pitch. Adam. Gerrit Cole versus Clevenger, FanDuel only, and then it's all ass from there, much like the concert outside your house.
Yeah.
Get on Tinder real quick. Come on. There's more people in the area, Adam. Come on.
Yeah. So your question was about Clevenger?
Would you go with Cole for 12 or Clevenger for 10-7, and then it's just garbage after that on FanDuel?
Oh, I mean, I prefer Cole if I can get there. Obviously, Clevenger gives you plenty of strikeout upside. It's not a bad consolation prize, but I still think Cole's, the guy that you would like to get to if you can.
All right, Adam's going to be handing out cards at the concert here once we're done recording. It's going to call it Not a Bad Consolation Prize. That's the name of his band. He's recruiting talent, so there you are. I look forward to seeing you on what is it, Instagram? I don't have an account, but I may have to sign up for one here. Let's get on to Ponce de Leon, because this is my patron saint, the fountain of youth. Ponce de Leon discovered it. Daniel Ponce de Leon is pitching. 8,500 going against Houston. They are going to have the pitcher tonight hitting, and then they really only have Brantley and then Reddick, but is Reddick really going to scare us? How are you feeling about Ponce de Leon going against Houston? That feels very contrarian, but possible.
I don't really buy into Ponce de Leon. His minor league numbers are pretty mediocre. In the majors so far, he's been pretty decent, but he has weird splits too. He struck out 20.9% of righties so far this year compared to 40.6% of lefties. They're getting a lot of really good righties in the lineup for Houston. I just don't want to pay an $8,500 price tag for Ponce de Leon against the Astros.
All right, 4 games to go. That means 8 pitchers. We got a little bit of excitement coming up. The next one is going to be Cleveland at Cincinnati. We have Mike Clevenger, 10,700 on DK, 52 on Yahoo, and then 11.4 on DraftKings. If you cannot quite get up to Cole, he is probably, as we mentioned, the consolation prize. This will only be the second time he has faced Kansas City. He handled them marvelously in the last outing. He went 6 innings, no runs, 4 hits, no walks, 9 strikeouts, 33 DK points. And that one happened 2 weeks before the All-Star break on July 3rd. What do you want to do with Clevenger?
He's been really, really good. He, for the season, actually has a higher strikeout percentage than Cole at 39.4%. Obviously a smaller sample for him. He's only made 8 starts, 42 and a third innings pitched, but that's a ridiculously good strikeout percentage. 2.82 FIP, 2.45 xFIP. Everything looks really good for Clevenger, and you do have a bit of a watered down Kansas City lineup with no Adalberto Mondesi. So I like Clevenger a lot. Will come down to ownership. I prefer Cole where they're similarly priced, but if you're getting a big price discount to Clevenger, then he becomes an interesting tournament pivot.
All right, the next guy I got to ask about is 420. That's Glenn Sparkman. There you go, Sparky. Get it? See, I'm hip. I'm hip with the lingo. 6,200 on DK. This is going to be the 3rd time he has faced Cleveland. He has allowed 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 home runs in the 11 and a third inning against them previously. 6,200 feels like a fool's errand going on DK. However, 5,800 on FanDuel. I'd rather pay for pitching there, but on Yahoo, he is the site minimum $25. That is worthy of tournament consideration. Other guys in that same price range are going to be Chichi Gonzalez. Do not do that. Steven Matz, we mentioned why we might not want to do that. Sean Anderson, it's been warm in San Diego. This one is not in San Francisco. And then now we're talking Vaughn Nova at 28. So it feels like potentially Glenn Sparkman on Yahoo. Thoughts at all, or are you ready to roll with the tribe?
Yeah, I just don't see the upside for Sparkman. He doesn't get strikeouts. He's facing a Cleveland team that is difficult to strike out. Maybe they'll be without Carlos Santana again. He was a late scratch on Friday night, but just really no strikeout upside here for Sparkman. He has a 12.5% strikeout percentage for the season, and Cleveland's active roster against right-handed pitching has struck out just 20.2% of the time. So really, really difficult to see where the strikeouts come from. I would rather just take a chance on one of the not very good pitchers, either facing the Padres or the Giants.
All right. Well, hey, let's talk about the Padres and Giants. You have Sean Anderson, 5,700. That will be in play. A little bit on Yahoo, a little bit on DraftKings. It is going to be in the upper 70s. That's down a couple degrees and maybe 1 or 2 degrees above normal for summertime there in San Diego. On the other side, you have Cal Quantrill, Paul's nephew, I believe. Most of you aren't going to get that reference, but whatevs. This is my 30th year of fantasy baseball. Quantrill at 6,600 going against the chameleon-like Giants, Adam. I say that because they can go righty or they can go lefty. They're not great from either side, but they can get the platoon advantage. Do you like either of these guys as an SP2, particularly on DraftKings?
Like isn't the word that I would use, but I will be.
Would you consider?
Yeah, they're the ones that kind of, I guess, stand out. Quantrill has been much worse against lefties, and like you said, he's going to face a lot of them. He's only struck out 16.7% of lefties compared to 26.4% of righties. He's allowed a 219 expected ISO to lefties compared to a sub 100 ISO to righties. It's a positive park shift for all these Giants bats. So if he is going to get a lot of popularity, and I think you would want to look to guys like Brandon Belt, Alex Dickerson, Yastrzemski, Crawford. They all make pretty reasonable plays, but there's just no real clear-cut SP2, at least until the Angels announce a starter on this slate. And so I think that you kind of have to consider Quantrill. And then Sean Anderson, another just really disappointing pitcher, but the Padres do have a lot of strikeouts in the lineup. He's only 5,700 on DraftKings. I can certainly get there.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And of course, we'll have more information. Again, you will get the DFS strategy show that'll come on at 11 a.m. on Saturday. We do turn that into a podcast and also mark it when we start talking about the main slate. So if you catch us later, download that if you're out running errands, doing yard work, hanging out with the kids at the pool, and trying to get a little me time, a little quiet time. Definitely check that out. It'll be in the description to tell you when to tune in for the main slate. We've got 2 to go here, Adam. We have Texas at Oakland. We've got, 75 degrees there in Oakland. And, oh, shoot, do you remember the name of the new Oakland Coliseum?
Ring Central.
Ring Central, thank you. So it's no longer the Oakland Alameda County Stadium, formerly O.co. Ring Central is now the sponsor. I'm laughing because I was mentioning they didn't have a sponsor, but they picked one up a couple weeks ago. So there we go, Ring Central. Shout out to them. Uncredited sponsor appearance. Adrian Sampson, yikes. That's all we got to say, yikes. But we are looking at 9 o'clock slate here with 2 games, and then the 3-game late slate of the Giants, Padres, Texas, Oakland, and Baltimore, and the Angels. We'll get to that in a second. Adrian Sampson, 5,500. I don't know that I want to get there more than 5% on the late slate mass multi-entry, but he will facilitate some heavy batters and will also get us Gerrit Cole. Looking at it through that lens against a team that is carrying a 5.5 implied run total against him, we have an 8-mile-an-hour wind out there to right center. Talk to us about Adrian Sampson and give us the cautionary tale.
It's a pretty terrifying matchup. The A's have bottom third strikeout percentage against right-handed pitching this year. They have a top 5 ISO against right-handed pitching, a ton of power right-handed bats, and Sam this year has allowed a 259 expected ISO, a 394 expected WOBA with just a 17.1% strikeout percentage against righties. So I do think that in tournaments you can make a case to get there just because of the price point, but it's certainly not a good matchup. It's certainly not a spot where I feel comfortable, and it wouldn't be surprising at all to see him just get lit up by Oakland.
All right, here's the other thing. It's going to be the 4th time they have seen him. He has started 2 of the games. One was a relief appearance, probably after an opener, I'm guessing, but 16 innings in those 3 appearances. Just a 1 base runner and change per inning issue, that or not issue, but 1.06 WHIP. He has allowed 8 earned runs, 3 home runs, 12 strikeouts, which is probably a lot for him in those 16 innings. Just pointing it out. You're playing with fire here. Late slate only for me, but I do not take any slates off. On the other side, we have Homer Bailey. Oh, Adam, Homer Bailey. I can't believe that he is sort of with the contender, if that's what we're going to call the Athletics. This will be the 3rd time he has faced Texas, even though he started out the season with Kansas City. In those 3 outings, he has a 390 batting average against, a 10 ERA, 2 home runs allowed, 10 runs, 9 earned, 7 strikeouts in those 8 innings. Once again, we're playing with fire, but he's 6,700. Do you want to chance this?
I would say he's my favorite SP2 option. I like him more than Quantrill. He's a little more expensive, obviously, than Anderson, but I think he's the better pitcher, too. His numbers against lefties in particular have been pretty solid this year, thanks to a really good splitter that he's thrown about 30% of the time to lefties. It has a 20.5% swinging strike percentage. He's struck out 23% of lefties, 314 expected WOBA, 140 expected ISO. Pitching in Oakland here, which is, obviously a favorable park for pitchers. And most of the good hitters in the Texas lineup are left-handed. Chu, Santana, Mazzara, Odor, Cabrera, all lefties. The righties are guys that you're not super concerned about. Andrews and Pence are okay, but Forsythe's not any good. Whoever's catching sucks. And Joey Gallo is on the injured list with hamate surgery. So pretty favorable matchup, I think, for Bailey. Texas only has a 4.1 implied run total. So, not looking bad.
All right, final game of the night. We don't know a lot about this one because, wait for it, this is the 16-inning game from Thursday. It's the Baltimore Orioles at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Anaheim likes to run out the openers. We have literally no idea who's going to be starting for them. Everything got mixed up on Thursday. They had to use Friday's starter in the 14th and 15th inning, Griffin Canning. On the other side, for Baltimore, we have Aaron Brooks starting the game, but we know he is getting stretched out. That really doesn't help us from, hey, we want to roster him, though he is 4,400. Probably will go around 65, 70 pitches. So consideration on the 3-game late slate, 2-game really late slate. Outside of that, we cannot recommend him. I think we're looking for hitters here, Adam. But who knows what's going to happen after Thursday's game, plus Friday's game has not yet started for us. Any early takes on this one?
It'll obviously just all depend on how Friday's game goes. Aaron Brooks isn't any good. It's a terrible matchup against the Angels. I'm not looking to roster Brooks. Whoever pitches for the Angels could be interesting. Depending on who it is, but we'll have to wait and see. But definitely keep an eye out because I think that is really important news since SP2 really is lacking here.
I just want to see because I thought, oh, good God, let me get to the box score from Thursday.
It's a mess because Andrew Heaney's on the IL. They had the bullpen game where Canning got burned. Pena
Dylan
just pitched.
Peterson hasn't pitched. Well, he didn't pitch Thursday. We don't know what's going to happen on Friday, but he could be the guy or the bulk reliever, shall we say.
Yeah.
So that'd be a lefty. Assuming it's a lefty, I'm guessing Mancini and Nunez.
Yeah, Andre Alberto also. Jonathan VR is fine.
No Santander?
Oh, yeah, and Santander. Yeah. I'd be interested in Peters if he goes, but you also can look to some of these righties on Baltimore. They're another example of a team that, while they're not great, they are much better than their active rosters numbers against left-handed pitching, because you have to keep in mind that the active roster includes Chris Davis, who might have like a negative WRC plus against left-handed pitching and probably strikes out like 84% of the time. So that's included in there, and he's almost never in the lineup.
All right, I do want to mention, as long as he doesn't go Friday night, I'm guessing it's going to be Dylan Peters. He is a lefty. He started on the 21st in Seattle against the Mariners. He went 90 pitches, so he is stretched out. Let's just check if he is on Yahoo. He is. Let me uncheck starting pitchers and resort. He is not showing up there. I don't know why. I'm sure he's in their player. Well, I would like to think he is in their player pool. In any event, that is someone worth considering. We'll have to see what happens. Just know that he is stretched out. So we should see him, if he goes, even as a starter or the bulk reliever, I would guess somewhere between 70 and 90 pitches would be in the mix. At 7,000 on DraftKings. Again, not really excited for him on the main slate, but we are looking for some secondary pitchers. And then on the 3 and 2 game late slates, he will be in the mix. Any other thoughts, Adam, before you finish your second to last, your penultimate piece of content here on Awesemo.com for the weekend?
I was just going to double back to, I have the Orioles numbers against left-handed pitching since the start of last year in front of me. So guys on the active roster that you would not expect to actually be in the lineup: Chris Davis, 39.4% strikeout percentage, 12 WRC plus. Chance Sisco, 39.3% strikeout percentage, 60 WRC plus. Neither of those guys likely to be out there. Jace Peterson, a 16 WRC plus. The guys that will be in the lineup: Andre Alberto, 149, Nunez, 111, Severino, 101, Mancini, 94, Santander, 83, VR, 80. So still, plenty of guys that struggle, but more of a bad offense, not worse than baseball offense.
Yeah, no, excellent call out there. And of course, we will have more by the time we do the 11 a.m. show there on the Osmo YouTube channel for the DFS strategy show, we should know who is going to be starting, hopefully, by then. If not, you do have Live Before Lock with myself and Josh Engelman. That'll be going off promptly at 6 o'clock because we have one heck of a robust slate starting at 7:05, so we will definitely be in the mix for that. So come on over, check it out. If you have not yet joined Osmo, you can always use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, 50% off any 1 month package. That does include the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, which is different from Fantasy Cruncher Pro, but you get the optimizer, which is key. And then, of course, we have free season-long football content. Check it out. Go over to osmo.com. Up in the upper left, click on football, and you're going to get team previews for all of the teams. You're getting information there from Nolan Kelly, and then you also get comments from Ben Raza, team by team, position by position. And then Laffy and Chris Spags have been duking it out on a few of the highly contested different situations there with where we should draft people and who we think is overrated and underrated. That is a decent read. And again, that's free because, hey, we like to look out for you at osmo.com. So you can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS on Twitter. You can find me at EmacDFS on Twitter. And of course, it is Osmo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.